Hello, Brother Sewing and Crafting family. Angela Wolf here, Brother Ambassador. Again, super excited to see you on this Tuesday, another new week, hot summer. We're having so much fun, but wait till you see what we have in store for you today. So speaking of hot summer, regardless if you're doing a picnic or if you're going to be fishing on a boat, this is kind of where I come in. Wait till you see this really cute project. I got an opportunity to see all the photos. We've got Tina here. You all know her, love her, and I cannot wait to see what she's going to make. But wait to see her back wall hanging. Tina, I love that.
Oh, thank you. Isn't that cute? So, yeah, it's a fabric panel, and then I just use the edge to edge feature with some stars, and it's great for like July 4th and Memorial Day.
Oh, you did the edge to edge on that with stars? What a great idea.
Good. And it was super quick. I think the whole thing was like 30 minutes of time on the machine.
That's it.
That's
So
it.
this is the thing. Tina always has these great wall hangings behind her. We're like, would you do a lesson on that? It's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
I'm really excited for your projects today, and I see everybody rolling in. I know, yes, we are streaming live on YouTube and Facebook, Brother Sewing and Brother Crafting. We love it when you pop in. Thank you all for saying hi. Everyone's here from California, Louisiana, Montana. Well, we've got a
Wow.
fun project for you. So tell them a little bit what you're going to do, because I think they're going to be pretty excited about this.
All right, so we're going to roll through with the machine. We're going to do some embroidery. We're going to do a little edge to edge. We're going to do some sewing, and we're going to end up making a picnic set. So if you've ever wanted to have a coordinated placemats and maybe a tote to bring your things to your picnic and even a can cozy, we're going to talk about how to make all of that today.
I love that. I love the cozy. It was the first thing I saw, and I was like, ooh, I see something great coming for the fishing team this weekend. I have a few days to make it too.
All right, good deal. Well, let me show you a quick still. I've got all pictures of all the samples real quick so you can kind of see where we're going before we get started here. So the placemat is actually two-sided, so you can turn it over and make it into a board game mat. So that's cool. And then the tote bag, I went ahead and added the sleeve so you can put it over the cooler handle so you don't even have to carry that heavy stuff.
That's
So
so cute. And the koozie. Don't forget about the koozie, because that was pretty cute.
I know, like I wasn't sure if you could do it without like stretchy material, but it turned out better than I was expecting. So I'm super excited about that.
Oh, I am too. All right, Tina, I'll let you take it away.
All right, so let's look at a placemat, the front side up close real quick, and then we'll go over to the machine and see how the magic got made. But it's basically got a jelly roll strip set here. We've got some embroidery in the middle. I've got edge to edge on both the sides here. And then I even use some of the decorative stitches that are on the machine. And I promise you, it's really easy. Normally, I'm going to come back to the face camera real quick. Normally when I start a project, I know exactly where I'm going and I have this, this really structured plan. And this one, it was really organic. I sort of had an idea and a jelly roll strip set that I liked, and I just let the machine guide me into how it all came together. So let's go over to the machine real quick, and I'll show you how we made the placemat, the top of it here real quick.
She was like, come over to the screen. He's like, I got it.
All right, so here we are. All right, so we're going to start with that center segment that had a beautiful embroidery design on it. And I'm on the Avenir today, and it does have a ton of really pretty designs on it. And the one I'm using today, actually, if you go into the category 1, and then as I'm going through here, just look at all the different categories and different types of designs we have. But I actually fell in love with the set of Zunt designs here. And I've used these for a lot of projects in the past. I love the paisley designs. So if you're a paisley person, these paisley designs are amazing. But check this one out, number 19. It's perfect. It's organic, it's kind of free form. It reminds me of summer. It's light and all that kind of stuff. So we'll just go ahead and choose it and set it. Now I went ahead and used my 7 by 12 inch frame, so this is a perfect size for that. But I'm looking at it and I thought, hey, you know what? It could really use a little bit more texture and a little bit more, I don't know, oomph to it. So this machine makes that really, really easy to add quilting around it, even on the embroidery side of the machine, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to change the thread color from that yellow into a blue color. So I think you can see that a little bit better. And then to add the quilting, it's so easy. If you just pop down to the button here that looks like stipple stitching, and actually hit it with your finger. you can see it automatically opens up, and the default here is a stipple stitch. So you got to do a couple things on this screen. The first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you tab over until you're on the hoop size that you're planning to use, because it does all the math and it creates the quilting so that it fits in your hoop. Okay, so like I said, I use the 7x12, so we'll just have a few of these that we're going to pop over here. We're almost there. Now, when you get to something like this, if you see the gray square, it's just letting you know that with this design size, there's not enough room to put quilting around it in that frame size, so it just is a good indication for you to maybe pick a bigger hoop. And we're almost there. All right, so here's my 7x12" frame. Now, what I love about this is that the machine has automatically filled in that entire embroidery field with my quilting fill, right? So this is a stipple. Now, as you're looking at it, right here you can make some adjustments, right? So I might not like to have the stipple in that little interior space. So what I can do to adjust that is I can come in here, and I'm using a wireless mouse now, which is why you're not going to see my fingers. But I'll just increase this little distance here, and what I'm doing is I'm creating a little buffer of space between my design and the quilting. So see, now I don't have that stipple in that interior space anymore. And then as I'm looking at it, if I think the stipple's a little too tight, might be too stiff when it's done, I can come down here to the spacing, and I can just increase the spacing, and that's going to loosen up the quilting pattern and lower the stitch count. And so that I made a little bit of adjustment. Let's make something a little bit more dramatic here. And look, the machine automatically does all that for me. So it's really quick and simple and easy to use. Now, while I'm here, right, we're in stipple now, I can also access all of the beautiful decorative fill patterns from the Design Center right here in embroidery as well, right? So I can hit select if I want to, and I can scroll through all these beautiful designs that I have here and pick anything in here that I want. And what I chose to do for mine is I went in and chose echo quilting, because I thought with this design, it kind of looks, to me it reminds me a little bit of water. And so I thought the echo with all that movement would be really fun, right? So that's really all I had to do for that center segment of the placemat, right? So easy peasy. Now when we go back in a few minutes, we'll look at it again at the sample table, but I did use a lighter blue for the design, and then I matched the navy thread to the navy fabric because I didn't want the echo necessarily to be part of the design, but rather I really just wanted to use it to create some texture in the fabric. All right, so super quick, super easy, stitches out in just a few minutes, and then we're off to the races, right? So from here, again, if you wanted to use the projector to look at it, you can turn the projector on the machine here, and you can see that projected onto the fabric if that's what you want. I may have to change my thread colors a little bit. Let me change so you can see it here. I can see the design and all the echo quilting here. So the projector feature on this machine is also next level because look, it's a huge 5x8" projection area, which I personally love. All right. So now let's look at what we did on the side. So I'm just going to come out of here, turn the projector back off. And we're going to go this time into the Design Center. All right. So basically, just to let you know how I got started here, I stitched together 7 jelly roll strips. And we'll look at that in a minute back at the sample table. And then what I want to do is I want to create a quilt fill that's on top of that, right? So in the Design Center, one of the things that you can do that makes it really easy is I can come in here to my shapes icon. So it's this guy right here. And in here, I've got a whole series of different shapes that I can use to design things, open shapes, closed shapes, all that. But I also can access my hoops, right? So I wanted to create a 5x11" rectangle, right? So I have 2 ways to do it. I could come in here and I could pick the square and then I could resize it to the size I want. Or sometimes it's faster to come over here and select your hoop, right? So I come in here and select that 7x12" frame. And then when it opens on my screen here, it's selected because it's red. Then I go to my sizing option. And then I love that we can use the keyboard to put in the size, right? So I said I wanted mine to be 11 inches tall. And I want it to be 5 inches wide. All right, now see how it's automatically resized that for me. Now, for the jelly roll strip sides of the placemat, I'm kind of handling it like an in the hoop project, if you would, right? So I'm going to assign a run stitch to this little rectangle here. Whoops. So just come in here to your line properties, and I'm going to choose run here. And I'm just going to make red so you can see it easily when I assign it. So now to assign it to my rectangle, I just go to the bucket or the flood fill here, and then I touch on my rectangle. And you can see that it's changed changed colors rather. And so what that means is I've now assigned that run stitch to my rectangle. Now I'm going to come back and use this a second time, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save it into the pocket for the memory. That way I won't have to resize it when I come back for the next part of the project, all right? So then I'm going to edit this a little bit. So we're going to pop in here to the next page. And the Avenir is the only machine that we have that you can truly create a single run in the Design Center. And so here on the edit screen, the way that I can do that is just come here to the undersewing or underlayment and turn that to off. And that's going to give me a true single stitch, right? And what I'm using this for is I want it to tack down my batting, and then I'm going to take scissors and cut away the excess so I don't have any batting in my seam allowances. And that's why I only need a single run. All right, so once that's done, I'll say OK. And then I'm going to go ahead and set, meaning I'm going to take it into the embroidery side of the machine. And it's letting me know that I'm leaving the Design Center. So again, if I hadn't already saved it, I'd want to go back and put this in the memory pocket before I pressed OK, but I've saved it so we can go ahead into embroidery. So here you can see that my tack down stitch for my batting. So now what I want to do is I want to add, and I'm going to add from the Design Center. So we're going to pop right back into the Design Center here. Now remember, I made that rectangle and I saved it in the memory pocket, so I can just go up in here. And it's the last one that I made, so I can just pop it right back in here. Wasn't that easy? I didn't have to resize it or do anything else. Now this time, what I want to do is I want to put a decorative quilting fill in here in the center, right? So my fill area on the machine is in this section right here. So I'm going to pop in here. And let's go ahead and use a green thread color because I want to show you something really cool in a minute. And then again, just in case you're not familiar with the Design Center, this one would give me a solid fill. This one would give me a stipple. This one would tell it not to sew anything that I'm just defining of shape. But all my cool decorative fill patterns are right under here. And on the Avenir, we got some new ones that are just so awesome. And one of my new favorites is down here. Number 51 is the one that I'm going to use. I love this so much, right? So we're going to choose our fill. And we can say OK from here. And then to assign it to our shape, we're going to use the bucket here. And then this time we're just going to click right in the middle of our rectangle. And isn't that awesome? It assigned our fill right there. So again, I'm going to go ahead and edit that a little bit. So that just brings me here to the next screen. And now that I'm here on the next screen, couple things. I want to increase the size of the pattern. I don't want quite that much detail. So to do that, and also decreases my stitch count, I'm just going to take it up to 150% here. And then we'll let it recalculate that. And you'll see I still have quite a bit of detail, but just not quite so much. And really the only other thing that I want to do here is the machine will default to a triple stitch for all those stitches. I don't want that. I actually want a single stitch. So I'll come in here to thickness and choose the single stitch. All right. And then I still have my run stitch. So if I pop over the arrow here, you can see that I still have my run stitch around the edges. And this time I'm going to go ahead and let it be a double run because again, it's going to be holding down the fabric and everything else, right? So we'll leave that in here. Now let me show you something else. And the Avenir now allows you to use the projector in the Design Center, which is like next level cool, right? So let's come in here and let's turn on the projector here. It's just telling me it's turning it on. And check this out. Look, you can see the fill projected onto your fabric before you take your first stitch, right? So if for some reason, maybe I was trying to get the center of this flower in the center of my shape, I could actually see how close I was right here before I ever take it into embroidery. I just love that feature. It just, you know, there's no surprises with the projector, and it's so big. I mean, I feel like I can almost see the entire hoop, and I pretty much can because my projection area is 5 inches wide, which is the same size as the batting piece that I have underneath here. And then it's 11 inches tall, and I'm in a 7 by 12 inch hoop. So it's really nice that we have the projector and it makes it so clear and it's so big. And having it on the design center is like a game changer for me. All right, so once we're finished here, we'll turn the projector off. Okay, and then here we would press set, and that's basically going to add the rest of my little in the hoop project here in Embroidering. So what it's going to do is it's going to do my tack down for my batting, then I'm going to trim that away, and then it's going to put in my quilting fill, and it's going to do the run stitch border. And honestly, the run stitch border here, I'm using more as a guide for joining my pieces together, so it's kind of a nice sewing guide for me when we keep going. All right. Now, for this particular project, we've got mostly the rest of it is sewing. So before we go back to the sewing table, I thought maybe I'd show you some of the buttons and the things that we're going to be using in sewing, and then you'll understand what that is when we come back in here. So I'm going to go to the home, and then we're going to go to the sewing side of the machine, and it's going to ask me to remove the embroidery frame, which I'll do here. So a few things. So in addition to the design center and the embroidery designs and the quilting fills and all the other things on this machine, it just happens to be an amazing sewing machine, right? And so a lot of the sewing construction that I'll be doing is using a 1/4 inch seam. And so this is a really cool feature. So we have guidelines on this machine. So if we come up here and turn the guidelines on, and then basically you set your main, you can adjust colors. Now I have both of mine set to green, but you have 16 colors that you can use. And this is awesome because it allows it to show up pretty much on every color and fabric pattern I've tried so far. I haven't found a fabric that I can't see one of these colors on, right? And now I'll go to my sub menu. And again, here I've got lots of choices, right? I'm using the line because I'm basically using it to guide me so that I can sew straight, because that's not really one of my better skills. But you have a grid, you have angles, you have concentric circles, you have all kinds of other choices. And then down here, I simply adjust it until I get to my 1/4 inch seam, okay? And so once I have that done, if you look here then on the fabric that's by the machine, you can see these light lines. And notice that they project behind the needle as well, right? So the way that I would use this is I would line up my raw edge of my fabric against this one here, and then my stitches would basically lay down, and I have a perfect 1/4 inch seam all the time just by following the sewing guidelines. So that's a really, really nice feature on this machine. Now, as I go through my sewing construction, just so you kind of know where the stitches are that I'll talk about, I use the utility stitch 103, which is the center needle position, quite a bit. I also later on, when we're doing the tote bag, when you're sewing on the sleeve for the luggage handle, I used 106. You could also use 105 for reinforced to keep it in there really well. And then on the koozie, I'm going to talk about using a satin stitch. Just so you know, that's going to be 109 here, and then I'm just going to adjust the stitch length a little bit. And then on this placemat, we're actually using some of the decorative stitches too. So this machine has over 869 decorative stitch options on it. And I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I forget to come in here and use some of these character decorative stitches around in here. The other day when I was doing this project, and there are so many beautiful stitches in here. I mean, so many really, really nice, but I fell in love with this 662, so I used this one. And then I popped in here to category 7, and I also used this one. Isn't that fun? It's almost like a little caterpillar. I love that. I thought that was really fun. All right, so let's pop back over to the sample table and see how all this stuff kind of comes together here. All right, so again, here you see our beautiful embroidery design. Now you may not be able to see the echo quilting because I matched that thread color, but look at that. See, I got all the texture, but it's not like distracting from that beautiful embroidery design. And then here on the sides, right, 7 jelly roll strips sewn together with a 1/4 inch seam. And then again, that beautiful, let's see if we can look at it up close, that beautiful quilting fill added in there for more structure. All right, so those were all sewn together with a 1/4 inch seam. Now, while we're talking about 1/4 inch seams, in case any of the rest of you aren't really naturally straight sewers like me, your other option is you can use the 1/4 inch foot that you see here, and it's got a flange or a straight edge here. And so if you run that raw edge of your fabric against that flange, and your needle position is right here in the center, you'll also get a perfect 1/4 inch seam. And so this one I really like when I'm sewing like a million miles an hour. It makes it harder for me to mess up. So you have 2 different ways to get that perfect 1/4 inch seam. And then once I had the center motif and the 2 quilted jelly roll parts together, I added some border strips. So I added a jelly roll strip on either side of it because I was looking for it to be a particular width. And then I added narrower strips down here at the bottom. So these 2 were 2 inch, and the ones at the top and the bottom are 1.5 inches. And then this is where I have those decorative stitches, right? So this is the 662 is in the orange section here. So see how pretty that stitch is? Let's see if I get it really, really close. Isn't
That
that
is
adorable?
so, I love that stitch. It's beautiful.
It's like a little meandering one. And then the little caterpillar one, look at that guy.
Oh, that's cute.
He's wild. So don't be afraid to, break open those decorative stitches because they're really fun to use sometimes, and they allow you to get, a lot of customization, and it's just fun. They're in there, so we may as well use them, right? All right, so Angela, do we have any questions from folks so far?
Everyone's saying beautiful design. They love it. Miss Maureen, I see you on here. You had a question. Is anything written in instructions? No, but you're watching on YouTube. So the best thing to do is I'm not sure if you're on the Crafts or Sews page, subscribe to the Brother channel, and you can go back and watch the replay as soon as we're finished, and then you can hit pause and follow along. So everyone loves it. No questions so far.
All right. So now let's flip it over. Let's go back to Samson, but flip it over. Because, you've eaten, but you're still out in nature. It's a beautiful day. You're not ready to go home yet. So let's just flip her over and play some games, right? So here you can see I've made basically a checker or a chessboard here. Added some border strips on all 4 sides and then jelly roll strips here. Now this one, I sewed it all together and then I used the edge-to-edge feature. So we'll go play with that in a minute at the machine. But basically, construction is pretty simple from a sewing perspective, right? So let me pop this over here. So when you're doing the checkerboard piece in the middle, I basically cut, boy, I've been messing with these, they're starting to fray. I cut 2-inch strips of fabric in contrasting colors, and I cut them initially 18 inches long, right? And then basically just put them right sides together and sew them together. And you're going to keep doing that until you have basically 8 rows, just like you have here, right? And then I do suggest when you're doing something like this, that you press it as you go. So I set the seams and then I press the seam allowances toward the dark colored fabric, because the navy you'd be able to see potentially a little bit through that turquoise. It's just a lighter fabric color. But then you can see it lays really nice and flat, right? And you can't really see any of the wrong things through the fabric. And at this point, what you're going to do is take your rotary cutter and a ruler, and you're going to cut across this and basically make 2-inch strips across this way, right? And so then you're going to have pieces that look like this, right? And when you put them together this time, because you have 8, you have this one, right? Let's go here. So if I cut across here, this one I would put, right, I would turn it so the blue's on this side, then the next one I would turn it so this is it. So you want to have it contrasting all the way through. That seemed to make sense in my mind, but I'm not sure it did for you guys. So let me know if that wasn't clear. But you line them up like this, and then basically you're going to seam them together with that 1/4 inch seam allowance, right? And then when you open those up and press it, you can see that you're starting to get the checkerboard, and then you'll just continue to do that until you have an 8 by 8 square grid, and then you can use it to play checkers or chess or whatever else you want to do. So pretty fun there. Now, the other thing that we did on this one, once we had the sewing construction, so again, you make the game board in the middle. These the green strips that I put around the 4 sides, those were all 1.25 inches wide. And then again, you got a 1/4 inch seam allowance on both sides. This was 2 jelly roll strips. And then basically I cut off the orange ones so that the back piece would be the same width as the front piece, right? So there's no magic equation on that. I just needed them to match front and back. All right. Now, joining the front and the back, because I have 2 quilted projects that are facing, what I did is I used a lightweight iron-on fusible. Looks like this, doesn't have a release paper or anything else, but it has a really light hand when you're done. And I just basically laid that in between the two, and I put the front and the back side of the placemat wrong sides together and pressed it, and that joined them. That way I don't have any separation right between the front and the back of the placemat. It's all nice and together here when it was done. And of course the bias tape was put in here. So it's basically 2-inch wide strips of navy fabric double folded in, and then you sandwich the front and the back inside of that and sew it together. Now I use a blanket stitch. I know some people like to use a run stitch. I really like a blanket stitch for doing my binding, but you can use the stitch that you want. So let's pop back over to the machine real quick because I do want to show you the edge-to-edge feature because we use it on a few other things as we're going through here today. And hopefully you guys have done edge-to-edge on your Avenires already. We did also have this feature on the Luminaire, but on the Avenir, they've added some more fills for us. So you access it here in this category Q, which is quiltbroidery. And then once we come in here, these first 3 folders are border patterns. And by the way, these are really fun and easy to use. And then the 4th folder is our edge-to-edge, right? So now with the Avenir, we have 15 different patterns. So you can see I've got flowers, leaves, sewing, snowflakes, stars, scribble, beach. There's really something in here for pretty much every quilting project you might want to do, right? Now this one, because I had a lot of greens and I was thinking picnic and outside, I went ahead and chose pattern number 2 here, which is the leaves. And basically the way this works is pick the pattern that you like, press set, and then tell the machine a little bit about your project, right? So the back of the placemat ended up being 13.5 inches wide, right? So 13.5 here. And the way I quilted it, it was 19.5 inches tall. So you see now we've entered that. Now, then you put in your hoop size, right? Now, it supports lots of different hoop sizes. I actually used our quilt sashing frame. So that's our 7 by 14 inch frame. So you can kind of tab over here. And it's important that you do select the hoop size you're planning to use because the machine, think of it as an edge-to-edge design size calculator. It's doing a bunch of complicated math to make sure that your patterns divide evenly into whatever your project size is here, right? So using this frame, I'm going to have 6 hoopings. I'm going to go across 3 times, and then I'm going to have 2 rows of that. And it tells me that it's already resized my design. This would be the size that would divide evenly across 6 hoopings into my placemat size. So it makes it super easy. And then the last option you have here is this flip option. So kind of, it's a little hard to see, but if you put your eye right there where the 2 patterns connect, you have 4 choices for how they connect. So here's option 1, and there's option 2, and there's option 3, and there's option 4. And I believe I chose option 4 when I quilted it. All right, so easy peasy. And while I'm here, just notice the flexibility. So I can use this for something as small as 7.87 by 7.87, so kind of mug rug size, all the way up to 118 inches plus, super king, right? So don't be afraid to use your edge-to-edge on mug rug projects and other smaller projects. It's not just for giant things. So the placemat was a good option for it. And then once you have all the data set here, you can just go to the next page, and it's going to show you your design. You can recheck your measurements here. It tells you 6 pieces, and in this case that means 6 hoopings. And then on the machine you have the choice of a single stitch or a triple stitch. So I normally leave my quilting projects in a single stitch, but if you really want the quilting to kind of be bold, then you can always choose the triple stitch option too. And you can adjust the thread color if you want to here, and then you simply save it into the memory. Now we're not going to do the quilting here today, but basically when you are ready to go, you can see that here's my design, and by the way, it tells you the dimensions here because you can see I have at least one other edge-to-edge that's in here ready for a project. That just helps me make sure I'm pulling up the right design for what I'm working on. You pull it up in the machine. You want to choose the bolded option here because it's got some automation features. And then once you start going in here, we won't finish this, but it's basically going to tell you how to hoop your fabric. You're going to want to see, the border strips on both sides here. and then it's going to tell you, we're going to match it into the corner, and then you basically use the camera features on the machine to match all it up, and it makes it so easy, y'all. I do so many fabric panels and that kind of thing using the edge to edge because it's really, really quick. You can cover a lot of space in a little bit of time. It's easy. It's just really all you have to remember is to read all the instructions.
And type the numbers in correctly. I just saw somebody here that said that Marina said that she did her first project edge to edge with a 10 5/8 by 10 5/8 magnetic hoop on the luminaire, and she's thrilled. It's so simple. I think the only mistake I always make is I forget to click set and it goes to the next one. So I just have to go back. If you follow everything it says. But Tina, on the Avenir, well, you can do this on the luminaire too with a mouse, but I like the wireless mouse. Because it's easier. Don't you love how when you scroll over something, it tells you what it is?
Oh, it's the best because you're looking at the icon and you're like, I know that, but I can't remember what it does right now. And then you put your mouse over and it tells you its name. It's the best.
Right. And I knew that brother fans would love that because you and I sew a lot and embroider a lot, and you still can't remember what some of these things are, especially when they bring in something new and you're like, is there a name for that? Yeah, there is.
Or when you're writing instructions and you have to call it the right thing so it matches the manual and you're like, I don't remember what it's called.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Everybody said they love it. Oh, yeah, Julie, I'm with you on that. That checkerboard project, that is perfect. Perfect.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah, now we need to do a bunch of little circles so we can have, that could be your next project.
All right, you cut them out for me and then I'll figure out what to do at that point.
I think I'm going to use a scan and cut on that one.
Okay, that seems fair.
All right.
So again, easy peasy construction, and you have a placemat and you got a game board on the back side. So it's really a fun and easy project. And like I said, I just kind of was like, I wonder what I'll try next on the machine. So don't stress out. You know, the machine does lots of things. Be really relaxed with it, and you'll be surprised at the kind of things that come out. So next up, we have a tote bag because I don't know, when's the last time you went to a picnic, right? Now they have the little handle that you can roll your cooler, but then you end up having plates and napkins and hot dog buns and hamburger buns, and there's just not enough arms to hold all that stuff, right?
Everywhere. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, so I thought a tote bag would be fun. And then basically, and I'll show you the batting that I used on this. But I used the foam batting instead of the normal, stuff we use for quilting because I wanted it to have enough structure that it would stand up on its own, right? Like I'm not holding it, it's not leaning on the machine. It's the batting that's inside that gives it the structure for this. And then on the back side, right, it's got the pocket sleeve that goes over the handle of the cooler, right? So then, you carry all that stuff, but you don't need any hands to get it done. And this is, again, super simple construction. It's the same jelly roll strip set and a little bit of navy fabric. So let's pop over to the sample table and I'll talk you through some of this stuff too. So first of all, let's talk about this foam batting because I don't know how many of you have ever used it. Generally when I use this stuff, it's in bag making, right? Because it helps give your bag some structure, but it's literally like foam. It's squishy. It's more than 1/4 inch thick, right? They sell it three different ways. This one, the one I have, they call naked, but doesn't have a fusible on either side. They also sell it with a fusible on one side and a fusible on two sides. I was basically using mine as batting. I knew I was be quilting on it, so I didn't really need to spend extra for the kind with a fusible, but it's really nice for bags and like this tote bag because it gives it a ton of structure, right? And so in case you're wondering if your hoops can handle the foam, yeah, I've got the foam batting in here in a quilt sandwich. I'm on that 7 by 14 inch magnetic hoop and it's not going anywhere, right? This thing will hold it, and it's also nice. It'd be nice to use it for a pillow right now. It's nice and soft. But these magnetic frames hold these things really, really well. So don't be afraid to use some of these thicker batting materials because your magnetic frames will certainly help you get that done. So here on the tote bag, again, kind of simple construction, right? So I basically sewed together the 5 jelly roll strips here with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, right? And then on either side, and it's by width of fabric, so it's down the whole jelly roll strip, just so you know. And then I took 2 4-inch strips of navy fabric, also width of fabric, and sewed on either side, right? So I had this big long piece of fabric. So that was the way that was done. And then basically I put that back in the machine, and I used that 7 by 14-inch hoop that I just showed you, and I did the edge to edge, just like I showed you. Now this time I picked that scribble pattern. This is one of my faves too, because it just looks good. I haven't found a single project that I've tried to do yet that I didn't like the scribble edge to edge fill on it. But basically then you just run it through. I think for this one it ended up being 41 inches long by 17 inches wide. So I basically just followed the instructions and hooped and repeated and hooped and stitched and repeated until I had this big long piece of quilted fabric. Now I also had, you know, the backing fabric was with it, right? So it's a full quilt sandwich with a foam in the middle. And you can also see with that foam batting, because it's got so much depth to it, you can really see the texture that it creates with the quilting stitches as well, right? So once you get your like custom fabric done, then it's basic bag construction, right? So here's a cute little step out. So pretend this was way bigger, but then you fold that piece of quilted fabric in half, right sides together, and you sew down both sides with a 1/4 inch seam, okay? Once you have that done, then here at the bottom, I cut out a 1.5 inch square from both bottom corners, right? And then the way you do that is you just pull this out like this, and then you sew across here. And that's what you can see, this one's already sewn. And even though this is just quilting cotton, by having those box corners, it's already created structure for the bag, right? And so it's really simple construction. And then because, you know, this is the interior of the bag, I didn't want raw edges showing. I took the navy fabric and made this double fold bias tape. So I used 1.5 inches is what I started with there. And so if you've not done this before at home, you just take it to the pressing table and you press it in half like this. And then you take each one of the edges and you press them into the center. And then basically you capture the raw edges of your project inside of there. And then just stitch that down with one of the utility stitches. And so then inside of the bag, you don't have any unfinished elements, right? So, and you do that on the box corners as well. So when we look inside of here, you can see I've got the bias tape on the seam lines down both of the sides of the bag. And then I also have it down, also have it down here on the box corners, right? So I don't have any unfinished seams inside of the bag, and it just takes a few minutes. It's pretty easy and simple to do, but it just gives you a more professional result when you're done, right? So then I would have the bag. So now it's time to make this little sleeve for the cooler handle, right? And again, that's pretty easy too. So basically, I used my 10 by 10 inch magnetic frame, all right? And so what I had for this is basically, I cut a piece of jelly roll section, right? And the jelly rolls are long, and there's so many that come in the package. I had tons of them. So I basically sewed them together and created a section that was 8.75 inches wide and 10.5 inches tall. And I used magic to come up with those dimensions. Not really. I measured the diameter of the cooler handle, right? And it was 7 inches. And I knew that I wanted to have a little bit of ease in that. So I added about 1 3/4 inches so that it would easily slide over that luggage handle without creating a lot of stress on that. So that's how we got my measurements. And I wanted it long because the bag itself is fairly long. And I wanted the handle to support it no matter how much stuff I put inside of it, right? So put this in there in the hoop with your batting and the mesh stabilizer. And by the way, for your quilting projects, I do recommend that you add stabilizer to them because the batting has some stretch to it. And typically the one that I use is the mesh cutaway because it has a soft hand. It's not going to make your quilting project stiff when it's done. But it does help keep the fabric from distorting, and it really, sometimes if you don't use it because of the stretch and the batting, you'll get some puckering when it's quilting, and this really will help eliminate that. So I'm a big fan of that. And then it went back to the machine, and again I did the edge-to-edge quilting, again putting in those measurements that I gave you. So you can see that same scribble, you may not be able to see, you can see now that same scribble quilting design is in here as well. And then once
I love that. Tina, you do have a question while you're there. While you're at that screen, someone asked, when you're using that mesh cutaway stabilizer, are you putting it under, like, explain the layers. You got your fabric, is it then your batting and then the stabilizer? They wanted to know.
I normally put the batting and then the stabilizer and then the fabric. So I have that no-show mesh is right behind my fabric, and it sits on top of the batting.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so then once this is quilted, right, you can take it out of the hoop, and then I just use the navy that was in the bag. Oops, I got lint on this. Lay it on the top, and then on the sewing side, you're going to basically stitch around the sides, leaving a turning opening down here. And then once you do that, you flip it right sides out, right? And I top stitched it just for more security. So let's pull this back up so you can see. So I top stitched the pocket on all four sides, just so I had nice finished sides to it. And then I lined up my jelly roll strips. Actually, this is kind of perfect. I was proud of myself. I got those all lined up, so you kind of can't see where they are sometimes, right? And I use that utility stitch 106. It's kind of like a funky zigzag, because I felt like it would really stabilize this no matter how heavy the stuff I put in the bag was. It's not coming out. And then I would recommend a reinforcement stitch here and here on both sides, because those are the major stress points for those sleeves or the handles. But that's all you got to do for the little luggage sleeve here. And then we're at this. Then we're ready to do the handles, and so the handles also are pretty easy. I use a fusible craft interfacing here, so that it's got an iron-on fusible in here, and it's pretty stiff, right? It's pretty stiff. So I wanted it to give some body to the handles. So I basically cut this navy fabric for the handles. I cut it 4 inches wide, right, times the width of the fabric. And then I did that double fold thing that I just showed you with the bias, right? I pressed it, I folded it in half and pressed it like here, and then I folded both sides here to the middle. And then I basically cut this to right under 1 inch wide and slid it like right in here. And then fused it with the iron. And then I top stitched down both sides, right? And so then I have a handle that's nice and firm. It's got some structure to it because of that fusible craft interfacing, and it holds up with the bag really well. And then from there, again, we're bias tape again. This is the same 4-inch strip here that was double folded. And so the handles were placed on the bag going down this way. Then the bias tape, just so you can see, kind of went over the top of the handles and was stitched all the way around the top. And then I basically just flipped the handles back up over the bias tape and did the little cross-hatching stitching here for more security. Let's see. Can you see that? So they got the little cross stitches. So they're nice and stable and secure, and they're not going to go anywhere. And so now I have a cool little tote bag to go with my placemat. Isn't that fun?
That's so cute. I absolutely love it.
All right.
All right, while you're there, I know that it's not a Brother product, but maybe you could give some tips of where they should go to find. Someone was asking what brand foam that is. And of course, we can't tell. So just do an internet search. Is there any thickness they should look for?
Internet search. Normally, if you go to a craft store that sells fabric, and especially when they sell a lot of bag patterns, they'll have it. It comes on a bolt. It's 20 inches wide times however much you want. And like I said, there's 3 different flavors of it: naked, and then 1 side fusible, or 2 sides fusible.
Perfect. Hey, that covers it. Thanks.
All right, so we're almost ready for our picnic, but we forgot our beverages, and it's been really hot, right? So did you know you can make a can koozie with quilting fabric? I wasn't really sure. I saw something that made me think that maybe it was possible. And I tried it, and the good news is it worked really well, and it was actually really stinking easy. So let's look at how all that came together. So first of all, show and tell. Here's our, whoops. My camera and I are chasing each other. Hold on. Here's the can cozy. Look, it fits the can perfectly. It's got a bottom. It's quilted. It's the perfect size. Oh my gosh, who knew that was a thing, right? But it ended up being super duper easy. So let's talk about what we're going to do. And we're basically just using the same skills we've already talked about today, right? So a set of jelly roll strips like this, right? Backing fabric on the back. And then I did do the edge to edge quilting just to join all the layers together. Now from here, and for you guys at home, the perfect size for these 12-ounce cans that are really common for sodas and, you know, adult beverages and that kind of thing is to make it 10 inches wide and 3.75 inches tall. So see, it covers most of it, but not all of it. So you get really good coverage at 3.75 inches. So cut that into a strip. And then you're going to take the double fold bias tape that we've talked about already, and you're going to put it on the bottom and the top so you don't have any unfinished edges there. And then once you get it to here, right, it's just right sides together. Now, if you happen to have the airflow serger, this is an awesome application for the serger. It will join it and edge finish it at the same time. If you don't have a serger, you can just do a utility straight stitch and then kind of come back over with a zigzag. I didn't put bias tape on the inside because I thought it might be too tight, but now that it's done, I probably could have accommodated the bias tape covering this as well. So you've got 3 different options for kind of edge finishing. So that's that part. But then the bottom, right? The bottom was the tricky part. So then I made the same kind of quilted fabric, but this time just out of a solid, right? So it's got the navy on both sides. And then I did some math. I measured my can, and I decided that I could cut a circle that was 2 5/8 inches diameter. Let's see, I'm trying to remember high school geometry. I'm pretty sure that's diameter. So I cut a 2 5/8 inch circle, and then out of here, and then I basically put, you know, just plain fabric envelope style opening on the back so I could stitch and turn, right? So cut the backing, stitch it all the way around the circle. Then you're going to do the little fussy bit here where you're turning it right side out. Doop, 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 doop. Anybody else sing to themselves when they're doing stuff like this? And
hey, there's your little circles. Make a whole bunch of those for your checkers.
Oh yeah, you're right. You could do that. So kind of mess with this. If you have an edge, you know, point turning tool, you can make it a little bit more perfect. This is pretty good with just fingers. And then I press it so it's nice and flat when it gets here, right? And so then the last part is just crazy easy, right? You basically put the circle on the bottom of here. And then remember I told you earlier about that satin stitch 1.09? So then I just ran maybe a 1/2 inch of those stitches here and then on the other side of the circle. So look, it's open all in this part, but just little satin stitches here and here. And it's perfect. And it's super easy, and the cans go in easy. I mean, I got to be honest, I was really impressed that you could do it. I thought for sure you had to have that, you know, stretchy fabric to do can covers, but hey, you don't.
I love that project. And, you know, I'm with you. I always thought you had to use like the scuba knit or something so it will stretch over. That's what you always see. This is cute. I really like this. Any questions?
Yeah, you can theme it to anything. Like you could have Christmas ones, or if you're part of a club, you could have club fabric. I mean, I think the possibilities are pretty amazing.
I know. And then everything you just showed, you can add, well, some other things that weren't shown today. You could add a monogram onto it. You could add, you know, names or little sayings. I love this because usually I'm using the sublimation printer and sublimating on just a single white piece of stretchy fabric. And we all have scraps. You don't even need very big scraps for this project.
No, it is a really great scrap buster project. And again, all these things, what do? We sewed stuff together with a 1/4 inch seam. We did some edge to edge quilting. We did a little My Design Center work. We used some of our utility and decorative stitches. And so look at the range of things, right? Placemat, tote bag, can cozy cover. I'm not even sure what you call it. Right? But just
all these things.
Have fun.
Everybody's saying great ideas. Great ideas. I totally agree. I'm just making sure I'm not missing any questions. Oh, Cindy, you know, I had that happen. She said she was on YouTube and it tells her the alert came an hour late. It happened to me when I was traveling. So if you're traveling, that will definitely do it. And you're like, wait, I just missed it. Good news is you can go back and watch. Everybody says cute ideas. There's no questions for you. You explained it so well. If you have questions and you're watching the replay, drop them in the chat. Oh, good idea. Make them. Yes, that's a good idea. I should have my mom do this for the bottled waters. When everybody visits her, she's like, everyone drinks like this much and leaves this much. It drives her crazy.
It's true. And then the trash can is really heavy when you got to empty it, right?
Yes, that is so true. All right, everyone. If you're watching the replay, leave a comment. Be sure if you're on YouTube, subscribe. If you're on Facebook, you have to follow if you want to get those alerts. And we are live streaming on sewing and crafting side. Join them both. It doesn't matter. We love seeing you. It's fun. A lot of people will go to one or the other to visit their friends, but I say join them both. There's a whole chat going on Facebook, and there's a whole chat going on YouTube.
There you go.
Everybody's saying they love this. Oh, they're going to use fabric from their favorite team. That's a good idea. That's a great idea. Everyone's saying thanks. Yes, I love it. Great projects. She always has great projects. I know. They love you, Tina.
You guys are so sweet.
All right, everyone. If you have any other comments, just drop them in the chat. Our websites are scrolling below, and we're going to see Tina again in a couple weeks. Next month. I can't wait to see what you're working on then. Until then, everyone's saying they're waving at Tina. Yeah. All right, let's see. What should we end this with? We've got such great videos from the Avenir. Why don't we take a look at that font preview? Tina, thank you for being here, everyone. I will see you. I believe I'll see you on Tuesday. I'm not sure there's a Thursday show this week. So if you miss us, I'll catch you on Tuesday. All right, everyone. Till next time. Bye.